Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Yuri and Daniel, for having me here at AI Monday. I hope you can hear me clearly and you also see my screen. Yuri, yeah? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So thank you very much. So about myself, who am I? Thank you very much, Yuri, for the introduction. So I'm the founder and CEO of AskBrian. The Brian story is also a very personal one. So I'm trying to build a kind of working companion. I wish I had the last 15 years in management consulting. I've been at Roland Berger and Sten Stewart in Munich. I love challenges, not only in work, but also beside it. I'm married is one of the challenges, but also I'm two-time Ironman. And I started to build Brian in December 2017. But it's just now from January 2020 that I do it with 100% focus. How I would like to structure my talk, I would like to tell you what we are up to. That means what we are trying to achieve and what we have achieved so far. Then I would provide some insights we usually don't provide to externals, and then to share with you some challenges and resulting learnings from this journey so far. So my story starts with annoying tasks. This is the pain point which started the journey of building Brian the Brain, how we call him. And usually I've been focusing on my project on support functions optimizations in large corporates. And of course, I've been working as management consultant in a high-paced business environment where there are, of course, you have extremely cool things to deal with, the big challenges, what was always big fun, but there are also some tasks which just are annoying, nobody likes to do, and they take too much time, especially when you know that out there are maybe solutions for that you don't need to do it manually or with this large amount of time. What I want to say is that for many of the topics which led to overnighter, and to much effort and time loss are currently handled with thousands of exciting teams around the world. This is an overview of the AI landscape and data landscape at 2019. If I would know all these sources, data sources and digital services, my work would be much easier. The problem is that the consultants like me and I believe thousands of others just don't know these solutions, don't know how to use them, or don't trust them because of data privacy concerns. And therefore the idea was to build Brian as kind of entry point to multiple data sources and digital services which are already out there. We want to establish Brian as a co-worker for humans at work. He uses natural language, therefore he works basically like Siri. Currently, he communicates via email. I'll come back to this later, why we did make this choice. But he is not just like Alexa or Siri just answering your questions. He also does stuff, how we call it. That means he provides you files or adjusts files for you. And of course, we do it with full confidentiality. So our business model is not based on marketing revenues and advertising. It's based on a regular fee, which fairly represents the usage of the services. The current skill portfolio, Brian currently can do 15 skills, or he has 15 skills. We started with file translation. The first one was the triggering pain point. This was the translation of PowerPoint presentations in the middle of the night. How does it work? To give you an idea, to glimpse, is that you just write a regular email to Brian at AskBrian.AI and say, hey, Brian, translate the slides from Chinese to English. And within 3 minutes, he delivers you the translated presentation, Word document, Excel file, PDF, or any other document, always 3 minutes, and he keeps the formats quite well. The second use case we were driving was the conversion of documents, because there are sometimes scanned documents you get from your client, If it's Excel tables which are scanned or Word files or presentations, you can also send a presentation, a PDF version of a file and say, hey, convert it to Excel to Word to any other MS format, and he delivers also here within 3 minutes. For translation and conversion, we use the best tools available on the market. I think it becomes really obvious and interesting when we start to combine the skills. That means this is for us, for example, convert and translate, where you can just forward a PDF document to Brian and say, hey, convert the attached file to Word and translate it from Chinese to German. That means you can send him any document and he can translate it in the language you are interested in. Then he provides some nice slide graphics like slide icons and templates and flags. You can ask him, for example, send me PowerPoint icons for growth, efficiency, and profitability. And within 3 minutes, he sends you 50 icon alternatives on PowerPoint slides for each of the terms. What we are now most excited about, and what we work on is the research skill. So currently he provides industry benchmarks for 100 industries, how they developed the last 5 years. He provides tax information, country data based on CIA data. And now we are working on companies. Maybe I can showcase this as well, how this works. Basically, you can get now, it's in a beta testing phase, so please consider if this shouldn't work. But what we are working on right now is that you can get information on any public company in the world via Brian just by asking it, like here, for example, hey, Brian, send me the numbers for Apple. And you can choose any publicly traded company. You can say, for example, Toyota, and send it out. And within 2 or 3 minutes, Brian should send an Excel file and PowerPoint file with 1,000 pieces of information related to this company. Usually this takes hours and costs also big amount of money to get the access to Bloomberg and so on. With Brian, it's all in one solution. Our moonshot is basically, we are approaching the consultants. Then we want to extend the target group, and one day we want to achieve that working with Brian the Brain is the dream of every white-collar worker around the world. So some insights, numbers or insights we usually don't share with externals. Here is a snapshot of how the usage of Brian looks like. I would guide you through some of these numbers. So per 100 entitled users, for example, a consultancy which has 100 consultants, there are usually approximately 50 active users in such a consultancy, and we know they ask approximately 4.7 times a month Brian for help. The most used use case is currently translate. The second one is icons. And then we have conversion translation, and some templates and research. We expect these numbers to change significantly after we are live with this research skill, because we believe this is kind of kick-ass skill, if I can say it like this. Based on the information we have, we assume that per 50 active users, we save the consultants and alike business professionals approximately 120 to 150 hours a month. So how does it technically work? Basically, this is a puzzle of multiple technologies. The first, also what we started with, was a cognitive agent. It's an NLP agent which is trained to understand currently 500 intents of the users and recognize what the user really wants. What we have integrated in addition is the email automation. That means automated receival and send out of email with no human in the loop. Of course, we have integrated multiple external providers and via traditional IT, if I can call it like this. So usually we use external databases which are connected via APIs, but we have also other solutions, and all this is kept together by Brian Core, which orchestrates the whole process. So maybe to give you a little bit more insight, Juri asked me to provide a little bit more technical insight how it looks like or how it works from technical architecture. All this starts with an email which is sent to Brian at AskBrian.ai. This email is splitted into multiple elements like email address, subject line, email body, and all the attachments. From here, it goes to the Brian core where we check if this user is entitled or this domain is entitled to use Brian, and also store for the meantime the core information of the email. Then the email body and the subject line of the email is sent to natural language processing, where we understand, of course, what the user wants. Okay, he wants benchmarks for industry and which industry. And this information is sent back to Brian core and passed forward. This already structured information and request of the user is sent to the skill core, where we trigger the appropriate elements. Where is the AI here in the game? So it's basically without AI, Brian would not be possible, because this is where the intent recognition is happening. And of course, in the individual services, like in the translation or in the optical character recognition, and we will add more and more of AI and enabled skills in the future. Maybe in the meantime, there is already the email in. Let's see if it worked. So you see, I've asked the numbers for Toyota, and what Brian sends me is 1,000 well-structured pieces of information of the company. So let's open it, if it really worked well, if Brian understood what we asked him for. And you see what Brian provides is for the last 6 years, for example, key ratios, and then all key information of the company, profit and loss, balance sheet statement, and cash flow statement, as well as multiple insights like allocation, basic information, business summary, financial summaries, industries, 10 most senior executives, including their age and from when they are in the position, and 160 additional KPIs of the companies. For example, the productivity of the employees, for example, number of employees, what the revenue per employee was, and so on. So I'm happy this worked. And he also provides a PowerPoint presentation with some basics about the company. So what are the challenges and learnings when building Brian? I've selected 5 which I believe are interesting to discuss. The first one, or the number 5, is that Brian is completely invisible. So Brian is not related or connected with any hardware like your Alexa at home with the loudspeaker. It's completely invisible. You have no downloads or uploads of the software because it's out there in the cloud. There is no web page where you go to use the service. You have no login or no password. It's only a list of domains and emails which Brian responds to. You have no menus and no buttons. All these elements or aspects, I believe, are advantage and disadvantage at the same time. Disadvantage in this meaning that Brian is really not present on your mobile phone or on your workstation. We turn this disadvantage into an advantage. I believe we will start to work more intensively with click to ask links. So basically they work like hyperlinks, where you just can click on a graphical element in our presentations, on our web page, in all the documents and emails Brian shares, where you on a very convenient way can get the information, for example, what Brian's skills are. So we turned basically every digital communication channel to an entry point to use Brian. The number 4 challenges that I believe, and that you will know it, AI tools are more like humans, and in that sense that they do more amazing things, but they also do more mistakes, and they are less predictable. That means independently of the training, there is still a certain probability that Brian will not understand and will not deliver what you expect. But based on the communication channel we have chosen, I believe this is the ratio of good understood requests is higher as in case of Siri or Alexa, because we are using the written language. The next challenge we were facing, and I already mentioned a little bit, was via which communication channel do we let Brian communicate? At the beginning, we went for Skype, Telegram, Google Assistant, a web chat interface, and also via a phone. But there were too many misunderstandings, especially when using a voice. But the main problem was that our users, when they are in the situation, when they need Brian, they are not using these channels. They are usually using email. And in the future, we will definitely keep email, but go towards Teams and Slack, where work-related communication takes place. So we will integrate the same Brian in these communication channels. The number two of our challenges is that there are many user types, right? So I've maybe a classification you probably don't see too often. This is how we see our clients. We have the exact users, which just use the language we propose. That means if someone wants the translation, we propose always kind of a default formulation to get this skill or to trigger this to do. Then there are lovely users which communicate with Brian also in a very human sense, like it would be so kind if you could translate this presentation about this and that to this and that language, and that would be just lovely, thank you. This kind of request is of course a little bit difficult for NLP because there are many elements like thank you and something would be lovely and there is a topic of a presentation, but still through training and increasing the robustness of Brian, we can handle these guys as well. What we cannot handle really well is the challengers. When the people know, okay, he can translate, so I try to challenge him, translate the web page to Klingonese. No, he cannot translate the web pages, and Klingonese is also not on the list of the top 100 languages Brian supports the translation for. Then there are superheroes. These are very efficient people which found out that you don't need to write English and German. It's enough to write EN and DE as a short codes of the languages. And we have also some users like that which minimize the interaction with Brian to the absolute minimum possible. And then there are very busy users, and there are not few of them, which just don't use the right language. Currently, Brian communicates only in English. Then don't say from which language to which language. And this is, of course, a challenge for default handling and so on. The probably most high-level challenge we have is the human expectations. So there are people saying AI is fake news and it's not existent, and they cannot imagine it provides real value. And on the other side, there are people saying AI is gonna rule us, so it's so powerful, it can do everything. Our job is, if this is the status quo, is to manage the expectations. This is what you can expect, no more, no less, and that this will move to the right. I believe not this is gonna be, they're gonna rule us, but this is also one challenge we have to explain all the time. Brian is a narrow AI application. So to wrap it up, I believe that Brian or a human plus Brian and AI means more time for the analytical and more creative work. It's more time for sports, like training for a triathlon and for health. And also you get more time to share with your loved ones if you decide so. Basically, that's it. And I would like to encourage you, you are free to check yourself. Brian is ready to use on our webpage, and you can register for a free trial. So I'm very much looking forward to our discussion.
Thanks so much, Pavol. Super interesting. For everybody else, like also everybody that joined, in the meantime, feel free to kind of unmute. It's in the check so that I can actually. Yes, so you can actually unmute yourself and just ask a question. So if there's any, otherwise, if you can't or you don't want to, please drop in the question into the chat group so that we can actually pick it up from there. And while we wait for questions, I might start with one. And so, Pavol, how did you actually identify the most relevant skills? You know, I mean, of course, translation is a relevant one. I use it a lot. But how, you know, what was the kind of the rationale behind there, and how do you go on, right? Because, you know, there's probably, you know, research is certainly also a super important one, not so easy to solve, but how's that process going on your side?
So basically we have 4 sources of information to prioritize the skill development. The first one, I've been in the industry for 15 years, so I have a feeling for that. What comes often, what's the biggest pain point, and I know the data sources, how to get this with my experience. The second source is we have a survey ongoing where we state 50 use cases where the people prioritize what they would prefer to have implemented with the highest priority. This is the source number 2. Source number 3 is we talk with a lot of management consultancies, and from this we know the pain points like sanitization of documents, right? So making them neutral, or transcription, or accessing maybe some internal information and documents. And this is our third source. And the fourth source is Brian is using natural language. And even though we try that the people ask only for the use cases Brian is trained for, there are still some free minds asking Brian from stuff he's not trained for. And this not obeying users are also a source of inspiration, because we see what the people ask for. So this is the fourth source of prioritization.
Yeah, makes sense.
I also have one question, Pavol. And so when I'm thinking back on your slide where you showed the different puzzle pieces, so what's Brian all about? So you said you have the core, like the Brian core, and then you have all the NLP. Are you developing the NLP part on your own, or do you using like state-of-the-art NLP software for that?
We are using the best software that we could find already existing, because there were genius guys working on it. So, and we have tried multiple ones, and we are using now Dialogflow from Google.
Okay, cool.
Any questions from the audience? Either you're looking for the unmute button.
I want to ask a question. Let me. You mentioned that this Brian is only, I mean, the communication language is only English, but still you have the translation options. And so if the information is in a foreign language, what does he do?
So the thing is that currently he communicates only in English to keep the complexity low, but on the back-end side, he's supporting 100 to 100 translation cases. And you are right, we can use also translation services, at least for the request understanding. So I assume this is only for within 1 day, we can make him understand requests in 100 languages, and he could then just do and perform all the logic and provide all the content in English, but at least he would understand the first request. And this is only if we put it in an intelligent part of our architecture. It's a very small step to make him speak or communicate in more than 100 languages.
That's what I thought. So actually, you don't need to skip to English. I mean, just English. And one other question. does Brian only deliver the data, or does he also do kind of analysis and extract some information? Or, I mean, is there kind of data analysis level, or just delivers the data he has access to?
So we are starting always with the simplest stuff possible. Yeah. So as of now, he provides the data which comes from Thomson Reuters, from Refinitiv. And what we will build in step by step is probably kind of an analytical part from narrative science. And we will build more and more information into these artifacts Brian is providing. And when that we want to add certain intelligence, we do it on top. But I believe for the regular consultant, it's already a lot of support to get this information he can work with. And I believe this will take many years until there is a real intelligence which can compare Toyota, Volkswagen, and Mercedes data to say what should be the strategy or where are possible levers for higher efficiency.
Thank you very much.
I have one question, probably pretty close and regarding to that topic of the data you get when what you showed about your request you had for Toyota. Is it only possible at the moment to say, give me the numbers of Toyota, and I got a line of, I don't know, 20, well, I think, what was it? Was it 1,000 informations about Toyota? Or is it maybe also possible at the moment that you can especially ask for P&L data, as like profit and loss data, or is Brian always providing like the whole list, what you get from Thomson Reuters?
So currently, our idea is to provide a huge input. So where the consultant finds definitely the information he is looking for. So if someone would explicitly ask for profit and loss, we didn't prepare it so far, he would send it anyway, all this information, and then the consultant finds the information. What we will extend is that you will be able to ask, hey, send me the peer analysis of Volkswagen. And in this case, you will get less information per company, but for 15 or 20 companies for all with which Volkswagen is competing with. So we will turn the data into multiple dimensions, also providing quarterly information, because I believe because of Corona, the numbers from last year are completely different compared to how the quarters develop. And I believe these kind of insights are relevant for competition, suppliers, and your clients. So you see at what danger they are and how hard were they hit by Corona.
Yeah. There's one more question in the chat. I would just read it real quick. How much time did you invest to come to this point today?
So we have been working on this for 2.5 years, but I did it parallel to my regular work. So let's say 2 years with 3 days a week, a crazy guy. So I'm just crazy. I invest also my whole weekend into it. My CTO is working on this also for 2 years parallel to his job, and we received the support of 5 freelancers, which helped us to develop the individual skills. The main core architecture of Brian is built by Matthias, who is our CTO, and he's from TES Systems. He's a system architect. So it's difficult to say how many. So it was quite a time plus external freelancers and a lot of trial and error and back and forth. So 2.5 years, I'd say full time, maybe 2 people.
Super. Thanks so much, Pavol. I think very interesting, and yeah, encourage everybody on the meeting here to actually test and try it out. I did it, and I was actually positively surprised. We also did some heavy testing and to see where's the borders, and I don't share it much. No, cool. Thanks so much, Pavol, for coming. Super interesting. I think with that.